Once it's been adopted by the cabinet, it will be up to every school to make sure that the directive is respected. I want this practice to be universal. Once you've arrived at the conclusion that this is going to be a good thing for the kids' concentration and this is going to create better conditions for academic success, well, I think it's my responsibility as minister then to make sure that all the students can benefit from this measure. And the power I have, according to the law, is to apply this directive to the public school system.
Yeah, and the follow-up to that was when? When's this going to happen? Then, of course, it has to go through a whole regulatory process, and then it was as soon as possible. Kelly Greig, CTV News Montreal reporter on the line. So, Kelly, we sort of saw this coming, I think, going back at least a month or two ago. It was talked about then. With respect to how close, this is not happening to start the school year.
Well, I mean, it needs to get rubber stamped. And yeah, we knew there was something in the works. It was no secret that this was kind of one of the things that Bernard Drinville wanted to tackle, among many, many other things to start the school year. But, there is some leeway here. So it doesn't get, implemented tomorrow, for instance, and then boom, it's all happening. So there is a little bit of leeway, a little bit of give here.
So, the obvious question when we first talked about this was, well, wait a sec, what about all the parents who are, say and have said, well, no, I need to be able to contact my child. He was asked about that today, was he not?
Yeah, he was asked about that. And there's, been similar concerns about things like, for instance, a lot of times this maybe is more happening in the United States, but a lot of parents have concerns. What if the school has an emergency? What if the school, for instance, goes into lockdown and that kind of thing? And so, to be clear, I mean, one of the things that I followed up with with the education ministry was, is this a ban of cell phones in schools entirely or just in the classroom? So, for instance, would a student be able to bring their phone to school but have it in their locker, say? And so that is a bit more nuanced. It'll be up to each school board or service center, depending if you're on the French or English side, to figure out exactly where school, phones might be allowed or not at all in schools. But, so there is a bit of leeway there as well in terms of where students might be able to have a phone if they do have one.
I love when you said that. My first thought was, imagine all these phones in lockers ringing, half of them at the same time. And what a lovely thing that would be.
Yeah, a little bit distracting. You could say it's the bell and then get out early.
Yeah, there you go. I'm pretty sure I heard the bell.
You can have your phone programmed to make it to the school bell. I'm giving students ideas here.
Yeah, don't do that. Listen, he also he did mention, by the way, the government, yes, they kind of telegraphed this a while ago, but he pointed out today, I think, that there had been consultations with teachers and school board members, right? Yeah,
I mean, Quebec is not the first place, so to speak, to do this. I mean, I've seen it more kind of on individual school bases where, an individual school will see how it goes in pilot projects. So, there has been consultations. It's not just out of the blue that he's deciding this one day.
Yeah, and I mentioned before, private schools will be able to opt in or opt out depending on what they want to do, I think, right? They're not involved in this.
Exactly, yeah. And just to be clear, I also checked because, there's some leeway that English boards have under the exemptions for Bill 40. So this directive does affect both English school boards, public English school boards, I should say, and service centers. So It's to both sides.
So let me switch from the cell phone ban into the whole teacher shortage. That number just got worse from yesterday to today. We were talking about an average of about 6,000 teachers missing. Today we found out that number's over 8,500. I'm not sure that there was much of an answer or anything to calm parents' fears here about not having actual people like an adult in a classroom. So did you get a sense that because I heard that one line today with the clip I heard about, when someone said, what's plan B if you can't find enough people? And the answer basically was plan B is plan A.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, that's the big question. Will there be an actual adult in the classroom? And when I say adult, I'm, obviously option A is a qualified teacher, one who's gone to university, has a teaching license. I mean, an unqualified teacher, one who's maybe working towards her license, or just an adult altogether. Yeah, it seemed like, he was pretty frank saying there essentially is no plan B. There is plan A, and we are going to go with plan A. So you mentioned, the numbers. It's 8,558 teachers, so 1,800 full-time positions, 6,700 part-time. And keep in mind, school starts next week for a lot of the boards, so that's not a lot of time to get a teacher.
Yeah, and up until now, I mean, that idea, what was it, a $12,000 bonus to entice teachers to come back into the profession, that's been can I say it's been a dismal failure?
Well, I mean, he mentioned a whole litany of incentives that they've been trying to give teachers. They're trying to boost the numbers of teachers who have been going through university courses to obviously become teachers and get that formal education. There's been, a salary increase over the last few years, but that is capped as well. So, it's no mistake that they're, it's not a secret that they've been trying to recruit teachers. But if you just look at the numbers today, clearly they have not gotten to where they need to be.
Did he give you, or did you have any sense in that press conference today that he has a real handle? And I'm not being flip. I'm trying to understand this. We've gone from, as I said, we thought we were 5,000 short to 6. Now it's over 8,500. What if these people decide not to come back? And I will tell you, when we did this as a call-in, we heard from retired teachers who were like, they kind of look at that $12,000 because it's not net, it's gross, as a bit of a joke, and they have no interest. So what happens then?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, the premier was asked that today. What happens if there is no teacher? And he said, we'll do the best we can. Now, what the best they can means, well, we're going to see that over the course of the next week. But, obviously, he kind of, Bernard Drinville listed some of the challenges that there are facing teachers right now. This is not an easy job. There are a number of problems in classrooms that, we see a lot of things, potentially growing, like disciplinary issues. There are a lot of students that need maybe extra help that aren't getting the attention they deserve. We've come out of 2 essentially years of a pandemic, so there might be some students who are a little bit behind where they need to be, so they need that extra attention. So he kind of listed, here are the challenges. Mm-hmm. There's no magic solution, but at the same time, this is where we need to be by next week. So It's going to be an interesting week, that's for sure. And it's going to be a big test for Bernard Drinville because, as the education minister, this is one of the main priorities. Sure, you can ban cell phones in class, and people might think that's great. People might not think that's great. But you need to have a teacher in front of the class.
I'm wondering, Kelly, just off topic a little bit. We talked about this. I think it came up the other day. He's new to this job, and he stepped on a few toes. He insulted kindergarten teachers the other day. Is there any talk about him being a little in over his head? Have you heard that?
Well, I haven't heard that. I mean, the session has been off for the summer, so keep that in mind. It's not been, we're just getting back into it now. The National Assembly is ramping up a little bit more for the start of the session in September. Last session there were maybe not as notable controversies. I would say the one that Bernard Drinville really was involved in the most didn't have much to do with education. It was about the Third Link Tunnel project. Yeah. You remember Bernard Drinville in tears in the hallway of the National Assembly over that. But that was not solely him. That was many other CAQ ministers or MNAs as well. So, he's being put to the test now in this new role because, of course, he was a very lauded candidate when coming in with all these credentials as, PQ minister, well-known radio host, very opinionated. So he is inheriting a file that is not an easy one, especially, there were shortages last year, and it's just been gotten worse over the past year.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well done. Well, good recap there in terms of why they wanted him to begin with. Now I wonder if they're kind of thinking perhaps we've made a mistake. We'll find out. Kelly, thank you.
Political futures don't last very long.
Not in this province. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.